Lazy Brilliance, Unveiling the Power of Codebase Preservation in React. What is Lazy Brilliance, other than a really catchy title for a presentation? We want to talk to you a little bit today about the power of being lazy. We're all engineers. Engineers love to be lazy, right? Yes. Right? We put a lot of effort into building crazy scripts and big, gigantic systems just so we can be lazy, right? We work really hard today so that we can be lazy tomorrow. And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about making sure that we can set things up correctly so that when bad things happen, we're ready and we don't have to freak out and we don't have to work too hard. And we're going to pull from our experiences in the global fintech world to show you some examples that we actually faced in real life of how that situation has worked out for us and how preserving the code base allowed us to actually survive these events. Okay, but we'll start with who we are. So, Noam?
Hey, my name is Noam. I'm working at Remitly around 5 years. I started as a junior developer, and now I am a team lead. My team working on one of our user application that serve immigrants to send money around the world, allowing me to be part of the product with a real positive impact on other people.
Thank you, Noam. And I'm Tom, Director of Engineering at Remitly. I've been here for about 5 years. I manage a few of the engineering teams that work on our products, similar to Noam. And what we want to talk to you about today is before we became Remitly Israel, we were a startup named Rewire. And during that time, as a growing startup in the global fintech world, serving a global set of users and working across many countries, we faced all kinds of challenges and difficult situations. And we're going to pull from those examples today and show you how we dealt with it, how we came out the other side, and how you can leverage the same kind of work to face those kind of difficult situations without a lot of stress and without a lot of difficulty on your end. So we're going to start from the beginning. And I'll get the clicker working and then we'll continue. In the beginning, not that far back in the beginning, but we're going to talk about the beginning of a feature release. So the feature release cycle, we obviously later in our SDLC process, when we're ready to ship a new feature, there's 4 steps basically that we go through. Right? We start with planning. We're going to figure out how do we want to open up this feature, what are going to be the flags, the triggers, the experiments involved, what audience are we going to open it up to, how we're going to roll it out to eventually reach the majority of our users. We're going to talk about the dashboards that we need to monitor the progress, the health of the feature. We're going to make sure that we plan all of that out thoroughly, right, because we're good engineers. And then we're going to go to the setup step. We're going to make sure that all of our flags are configured in our development environment, in our production environment, that everything seems to work. We're going to make sure that all of our analytics events are in place, our dashboards are looking good, everything is set up, and we're ready to go. Now the main event, we go ahead with the rollout. And the rollout is going to start in some sort of small, what we call the proverbial 1% rollout. It can be literally 1% of the user base. It can be just internal users, people who work in your company if you're large enough. It can be a particular subset of users, maybe pre-selected or opted in for alpha or beta distributions. You're going to start from that 1%, make sure everything is healthy. We make sure that everything is working. We look at our dashboards, we follow through, make sure everything is working well. And then we increase our rollout. We're going to go according to our plan. Perhaps we go 10%, 50%, 70, 100. Perhaps we go by geographic distribution. Eventually, we're going to increase our rollout, see that people are using the feature as we expect. Everything's working well. We get to full rollout, 100%, features in production, old code paths are turned off, and we're ready to go. This is the end of the process. We're fully done with that feature. And then, of course, you don't want to forget the cleanup step. You want to make sure that old code paths are deleted. If there's unused code, it shouldn't be in the code base. We want to make sure that all of our flags that we're not using anymore are cleaned out, right? Keep a clean, tidy code base, right? Does everybody always do this? Okay, but we know we should, right? Maybe we put a backlog item, we file a ticket for it, we're going to come back to it. We know we need to do the cleanup, right? It's important, it's best practice, we need to do it, right? Wrong. We don't do the cleanup, we keep our old code paths, and we keep our old feature flags in place, and that actually allows us, if we do it correctly, to handle complicated situations that come up later. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to pull, like we said, from real examples that we faced in Rewire as a growing global fintech company. And Noam will present the first example.
Thank you, Tom. So let's start with the first example, out of stock. Physical card stock runs out. So as part of our financial services, we provide a debit card for our users that they can use it also online and also in person. It's a real debit card, physical card, that we really ship it to the user. You can see this is my card. So when we start to work on the new flow to order a new card, we of course start from the beginning for the design, planning, and all relevant steps on when we create a new feature. But let's talk about the feature release cycle that Tom mentioned. So we of course we're planning the feature flag, how we want to configure it, which user we want to start with them. And after that we create a new feature flag for the ordered cards flow. When we completed the implementation, we continue with the rollout. So we start the flow for 1% user, continue to 10% until 100%. We continue with the feature, and we saw that many users really order the card and very happy, and we get very real positive feedback from our users that it's really great and they use it. So the feature is out and it's run around 1 year, and we did not clean up the code and we don't remove the feature flag. One day we wake up to a new work day. We open the mail and we saw a new mail from our partner that inform us that temporary the stock of the cards will run out. So, of course, the first action that we want to achieve is immediately to close the flow, because we don't want the user start to order a card and we can't to ship the card for the users. So let's think what we need to do if we did the cleanup, if we remove the feature flag from our flow. So first of all, we need a developer. Stop his work, maybe work on an important thing. The developer create a fix to hide the flaw or remove the relevant code. Test it, of course. Merge it to dev environment. Release it to production. Production verification. Create a mobile app. Test the mobile app. Submit it to the store for review. Release it. And turn on the force update functionality. What we actually did, because I mentioned again, we did not clean up the code and we don't remove the feature flag. So the product manager turned off the feature. We of course test it on production environment and done. That's it. We did not need developer to be part of the process. Only the product manager that he can turn off the feature. It was like a push on the button, and that's it. So it's very cool and amazing to be lazy. So let's talk about the technical notes. Because we understand that we want to save the old code and we want to save the feature flags, of course, the first thing you thought about that is that it will be a big mess in the code base because we have a lot of features and we have a lot of feature flags. So let's talk how we do it, how we manage all the feature flags together to create organized and clean code. So first of all, we create a new type that we call the feature capabilities that include 3 parameters. The first one is available. When the feature is available, for example, it can depend on the feature flag. The second one is ready, when the feature is ready. But here we can add another layer of logic in addition to available. For example, if the feature is available, but we want to open the flow only after user complete the KYC flow and know your customer flow, or if user only after he complete the setup his account. And the last one is completed. When the flow is completed, for example, in this case, when the user order account, we don't want to show him again the same flow. So we decide to use React hooks and create a custom hook per feature. In this example, you can see use order card feature that return the feature capabilities we saw in the last slide. So all the feature will be use it, and we have the same pattern for all the features. And all the relevant logic per feature is here, and we can manage it in one place in a very easy way. You can see in this example, when the order card flow is available, only when the features is enabled. The features is all the feature flags that come from the server, and we save it on the client store. And when the feature flag is turned on, as also here the available will be off. And many times we have multiple entry points to the same flow. For example, for the order flow, I want to trigger the flow from the home page, but also in the settings, I want to add the ability to change the mailing address. So we have different logic, but for the same flow, and I can use the hook instead to create a duplicate code and the same conditions. And very easy, I can turn off the feature. When I turn off the feature flags, also the settings page and also the home page will be hide the flow and the logic that depends on the flow. So with the React hooks, we can create organized and clean and a very easy way to manage all the feature flags together.
All right, thank you, Noam. So the second example we want to show you today is one we call rules and regulations. Obviously, in our world, in the fintech world, regulations are a big deal. We work in a very regulated industry. And we faced some regulation changes in Nigeria in our time in Rewire as we were a growing startup. And that was another interesting scenario that we're going to walk through. So first thing we need to understand is our business, our main flow, the central functionality that our business is built on and that most of our users utilize Rewire for at the time is international remittances, sending money internationally. This is an example of our send money flow to Nigeria, from Israel in this case. At the time, Rewire operated in Israel, Europe, and the UK. So you could send money from any of those countries, any of the European countries, UK and Israel, to Nigeria. Here we're sending 200 shekel to Nigeria in Nigerian naira. That's the local currency. This is our central key flow, most important to our business, most important to our users. Even that flow, we built with a feature flag that can disable it and turn it off, right? Because that's our way, and that's how we can leverage our lazy brilliance when bad things happen. So As you can see in this example, this is a user wanting to send money. We faced a regulatory situation in Nigeria where the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, sent out alerts. This was in November and December of 2020, that we are no longer going to be able to send money to Nigeria in Naira, in the local currency. All IMTOs, international money transfer operators, are going to have to send money in US dollars to Nigeria. Now, the Nigerian market was a very important market for us, really good, loyal customers. And this is obviously a big impact, right? They may prefer to send money in Naira, and due to regulatory reasons, we may no longer be able to do that. However, for us, the first thing to do, as we discussed, is when something like this happens, we have to react quickly. The first thing we do is turn it off, right? So if we didn't have our lazily brilliant approach of keeping the old code paths and old feature flags in the code, we'd have to go through all those steps again. We're not going to go through them one by one. We already did. But it's a mess, right? It's stressful. It's a bunch of work. And we don't want to have to do that. And luckily, we didn't have to. So this is our send money flow when it is disabled, when the feature flag is set to off, in this case. And so the user sees a notification that says the sending to their current market is currently disabled. And we were immediately able to be compliant, not run afoul of any regulatory issues. And now we can start reacting, right? So instead of being stressed about quickly turning it off over the weekend or quickly building an alternative and risking being out of compliance for some period of time, we can immediately be compliant, turn it off, even though this is our central, most key feature. And now we built the ability to send money to Nigeria in dollars. This is not something we were able to do at the time. So we built it into our systems. We made sure that it works with our partners. We built it into the client, made sure the flow works end to end. We were able to do that with a lot less stress. And we shipped it. And of course, as is our way, we set up a feature flag so that we can toggle between dollar and Naira, because our default, what we had implemented before, was being able to send money to Nigeria in Naira. And now we want to be able to send money in dollars, but we want to have that control. And so we finished the work, we shipped it, and now our users are able to send money to Nigeria in dollars. It's maybe a little bit different, maybe it doesn't fit the needs of all of our previous customers, but at least the business was able to be back. A lot of our users were able to still benefit from our services and utilize them, and we can basically be back online, right? So that is obviously a good thing and very important. And it stayed like that for a while. So we moved to working in dollars, and this was the case for a couple of years. And then, breaking news, there was another regulatory announcement from the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, that now IMTOs are going to be able to send both Naira and USD to Nigeria. So the regulation was basically reopened, and we're going to be able to reinstate our previous functionality. So as you guys already know, due to our lazily brilliant approach, it's just a push of a button, and we can bring the Naira back, which was great. We didn't need to trigger any engineering work. We just had the product manager that's responsible for that business flip the switch, bring the Naira back online, and our customers were able to work again. And the good thing is, because of the way we built it, we actually allowed customers to opt in if they preferred to send money in dollars. They could opt into it, and our flag was configured such that some users could continue sending to Nigeria in US dollars, and others would send using the Naira, right? So that was a really, really nice thing for our business and for our users, years after we had originally had to shut down sending money in Naira. The only downside is that we couldn't celebrate any heroic efforts by any developer because no developers were needed to bring back the Naira, bring back that business, and allow our customers to benefit from that again. A couple of quick notes on that. Regulations have actually further changed since July 2023. And obviously, we want to make sure we all know Remitly always stays up to date with regulatory changes. Always we stay in compliance, and actually we're able to do that thanks to the way we've built this stuff. All right, and a quick technical note here as well. So we want to talk about how we set up our flags. So the first thing is we make sure that we have the right information. So we do a little data enrichment when we request the flags from the client. So when we first make the API call from the client to fetch the feature flags for the user, we have basic information such as the user ID, phone number, the platform, OS version, app version, the market, which we talked about in this case was very relevant. We have to know that the users are in Nigeria in order to support those specific granular changes. But there's more information that we can get, right? So at the gateway layer, when we reach the API, we can pull the IP address of the user from the headers, and we can use that to enrich the request into our flag service and filter on IP addresses if we need to. And when the request reaches the backend, we actually fetch our tags. We have tags on our users. It's basically labels that we use to create groupings. And we can fetch that information and again, enrich the request before we request the feature flags from our flag service. And then when we get the user's feature flags back to the client, we can make sure that we have the most granular filtering and the most control over making sure that we get the right information, the right flags for the user based on any conditions, based on any of that information. And a little bit of how we configure the flags then, how that looks in the GUI of our flag service. So here's an example of how we turned off the send money flag, right? So we actually disabled the core functionality of our service for the Nigerian market. So when market equals NG, distribution 100% off. Obviously, there's other conditions where the flag is on, hopefully in all other cases, but things happen, and that's why we have these controls. And the other example is when we actually brought the feature back, and we were able to bring the Naira back after we were 100% US dollar distribution. We had a flag like this that allowed us to check when the market is Nigeria, and the user's tags contain requested USD. These are the users who opted in to continue receiving dollars when they sent to Nigeria. Then distribution is USD 100%. Obviously, other conditions had distribution be Naira, and that's configured to return that information in the flag. And that's how we can control these situations and benefit from this structure. All right.
Thank you, Tom. So let's summarize it. So first of all, leave the old code. Leave the old feature flags. But do it smart, because you don't want a big mess in your code base. You want to create a clean and organized code. And be a bit lazy. We never thought that our partner will inform us that the card of the stock will runs out. And we never accepted that Nigeria will change the regulation and we will close the main flow in our product. We have more examples. Of course, the Brexit one. Who is here about that? So we saw some examples from our fintech company board, and in this way, we really, it's really save us, and it's really help us, and we know that it can also help and save you. So let's see some examples from your company or business.
So let's say you're a productivity office suite company, you provide those services. Maybe a partner that you use for autocomplete functionality was acquired by another company, and now they're invalidating service agreements, and you very quickly have to find an alternative, fall back to another source, or build something yourself, or even have to turn it off if you don't have an alternative.
If you are marketing tech or ad tech, for example, a platform changed their app tracking transparency rules, who also deal with that?
I think everybody dealt with that. If you're a media and streaming company, maybe there was a change of digital copyright laws, and that affects features where you have either people streaming in certain geographies or maybe shared streaming across geographies, right, which became popular during COVID. Maybe now that multi-geography situation is a lot more complicated, and again, maybe you need to turn it off in the short term until you find a solution.
And if you are virtual meetings and collaboration, an operating system or browser change make screen sharing work differently or fail to work. Let's think what's happened and what we need to do if it was in the Corona time.
And there's other examples. We're not going to go through everything. And I think you guys know your industries better than us. And hopefully you guys can come up with scenarios that you've either faced or that you know you could face. And that's the point here. We know that this stuff is real. It's happened to us. And we want all of us to learn from those experiences and be able to deal with them better. And so again, let's review our feature release lifecycle process. It obviously has 3 steps, right? We start with planning, make sure we know what we're going to do, what is going to be our triggers for when we can increase the rollout, what flags are we going to use, what dashboards are we going to utilize to follow and track the health. Then we do setup, we make sure all those flags are in place in all of our relevant environments. We make sure our dashboards are up and running, everything's looking good. And then we roll out the feature. We go through just like we planned. We reach that 100% rollout. We get everything fully out there to all of our users. And then that's it. We start again on the next feature and the next feature. And we keep that stuff in the code. As long as we prep for it and we do it correctly and we do it wisely, it's going to benefit us and really, really help us in these unexpected, unforeseen situations. Thank you very much.